Hi guys, welcome to my video. My name is Zippy, and today I'm here with you guys in a new location. It's the car, and I'm here in Chinatown slash Koreatown, like the intersection, because I see a bunch of Korean signs and a bunch of Chinese signs. So I guess it's a combination of the two. But I'm here and in Flushing, Queens right now, in the car. So yeah. So today I wanted to update, do another coronavirus update video with you guys. I think this is number 3, and I just wanted to do this because it's so bad to say this, but we're here again. We're here again, another at another turning point in the game, and another huge mess. Basically, right now, what's happening is that you have a bunch of states in the Heartland region, which is where I was born. I was born in Iowa. In that region, in that area, Midwest, out west, that is exploding with new cases. Absolutely exploding with new cases, and it's getting really bad. And now the government of Iowa just ordered a mandate on masks. Because that's how bad it's gone. That's how bad it's gotten. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you saw this coming, and we did, but it's really just exploded. And I didn't see it coming in Iowa. I mean, I've heard cases happening, people getting sick in places where it's in the farms, out there in the rural areas, and still people are falling sick. And it's like, I mean, before, if it's like 6 months ago, you would think, oh, this is going away, and this is only something you find in the urban areas, the cities where people are congregated together. Here, like here in New York and New York City, but now you find it in really rural places where there's less people and it's not as dense, and it makes you wonder, wow, like this virus can spread that far that quickly. But I guess we all knew that already. But it's really gone everywhere, and it's like no place is left untouched. I mean, I just saw an article in the New York Times saying that every county has been affected, and there's only one county that hasn't had a single coronavirus case, and it's somewhere in Wayne County, Texas, I believe. And they're just kind of wondering what they did, and how they prevented it, and will they be able to still prevent having a case, because all the other who knows how many counties in the U.S. have fallen to this virus. So it's really unfortunate. So I'm just here to tell you that this is a as of November 18th, 2020, and even before, maybe 2 weeks before, this month really, I mean, we've just seen a huge explosion in cases, especially in the Midwest, and it's gotten actually to our worst record. I just heard on the news today, it's the worst record number of cases in 6 months. And 6 months ago what was it? Today's November? I think it was in May, right? May feels like so far long ago. Can you believe May was the last time the numbers are this high? But we're back 6 months later, half a year later, and it's exploded. That's how much of an impact it's leaving us. And I'm here to tell you guys that, if you've watched my earlier coronavirus videos, you'll have known that I have detailed the journey of this virus, and I can tell you again what happened. In summary, basically, I mean, they call it COVID-19 because, it came in 2019, but honestly, many of us didn't know about it until a little bit into 2020, like myself. The vast majority of people didn't know about it until then. And so it came about, this is what I know so far from the facts, you know what I mean? And my own observations, my own experiences, right? 2019 in the December, right? And people are saying even in August, it was already around that time. But we saw, cases in Wuhan, China. And then in December, it really got bad, really got bad. Hospitals were seeing a huge number of people coming. And then by the time it was, 2020, this year, January and then February, we saw a huge problem in China. it wasn't from now just Wuhan. It wasn't just now the Wuhan province. It was now everywhere in the country. And it started going out to neighboring Asian countries like, Japan, South Korea, I imagine. Um, but for much of that time period, the first 2 months of, the year, it was thought that it's just a Chinese thing, you know what I mean? It's just a Chinese thing. It's gonna go away. And then eventually, it's just something that's in Asia, in East Asia. It'll go away. They'll contain it themselves, you know what I mean? And let me think. I wanted to add something, but I forgot what I was gonna say. And by the time, honestly, we started seeing it around February. It got really bad. And then eventually it came here sometime around February, March, maybe late February, early March. It came to, but it really started hitting hard the U.S. First, I believe it was, Washington. I almost said Wisconsin. No, Washington. And then it went to, the rest of the West, kind of, Oregon, California. Because people came from, U.S. citizens came from China, and they returned back to the U.S. Because they were doing stuff there, and they came back and they brought it with them. And that was hugely devastating because then they spread it amongst other people, and even them, they died. People infected died too, and that's how we knew it was not just we, but everyone knew it was a huge issue at the time. We kind of, I don't know, say me, that's not like the doctors didn't know this, but like I guess us, as general population, kind of started seeing how dangerous this is because it just literally spreads, picks someone, terrorizes their body, and then goes ahead and does the same thing to someone else they come in contact with. And then it wasn't until, let's see. It wasn't, schools started shutting down, at least here in New York City and also other places, mid-March. Schools were closed. Mid-March was really bad because that's when we know that it was in the U.S. It was now officially in the U.S. in March. We knew that for certain. And it was terrible because it's like, okay, China had it. We thought it was just their kind of thing. Asia had it. We thought it was their scene. Also, my dad went to Europe first. It was really bad in Europe in the spring. I can't miss that part because it was super bad in Europe. Spain, Italy. It was, I don't know why those countries were hit the most, but it was hugely bad. I think a lot of people were going to China that time. Even Iran, because our Iranians were going to China and there was some business going on there, I think. It was horrible for them. They had lockdown forever. Honestly, forever and ever and ever. And there's no quarantine. It started in Europe. There's no quarantining, you know what I mean? It was bad. Horrible. We all went online. After Europe, obviously, and not just Chinese, not just saying that Chinese people or Chinese or U.S. residents went to China and then came back with the virus. People also went to Europe where there were cases and infections happening there, not knowing that the virus is there. Maybe they, at the time it was really early, you know what I mean? And then they came back from Europe with that virus, and then the same thing happened. So it was just like, at that point, it didn't matter which country you came from. It was just everywhere. There's a point where it was in every country. Every country had like a really high peak. I think that was the spring. It was horrible. March, April, May. Those are the months that really if I had to say to this entire year, 2020, the coronavirus is the worst, I feel like, in the world during March, April, May, during the spring. It was horrible, especially during March. I think that March was the worst month for everyone. Eventually, summer came. Sometime there was kind of like easing restrictions, I guess. I don't know. Like, I think people also were tired of lockdown and maybe quarantining as well. The weather was warm. Let's not forget it too. I think if it was winter, it would have been a different story. But it was summer now, and people were wanting to get out. You know what I mean? And maybe the cases still increased, during the summer, and it was just kind of that limbo time period. We really don't know what's gonna happen. But the thing is, the summer that as I can believe it, as I can think of it, it was at least better. You know what I mean? Like, it was at least better. We weren't as how we were in the spring. there were now guidelines that came around April. I don't know. In April they told us to wear masks. Before that wasn't really brought up. Um, but in April, we started being told, okay, masked, 6 feet apart, yeah, ooh, I can do 6 math. 6 feet apart, social distance, things like that. Wash your hands, hand sanitizer, things like that. We kind of had that ingrained to the back of our heads. And then finally, we had it happen where things kind of looked up a little bit more, they looked better. And now it was the summer. I think the summer actually went pretty well, and honestly, the summer was so long, I can't really remember. I was so busy in the summer, honestly, didn't really look at that hard as at the facts or whatever. But obviously, it did increase in the summer, but it wasn't to the point where it's like resort to a lockdown, resort to a quarantining like it did in the spring. It wasn't that bad. So cases did rise though, and I think a lot of people, they thought that if we do good, if we do better with our practices, then we can start to see cases go down, cases really fall down. And for a time they did. I don't really know what time, but for the time they did. But by the time we ended up in summer, it wasn't that great because cases were still rising. It wasn't like as bad as it was before. They were still rising, so it's kind of like this weird scenario of like, are we doing good? Are we doing bad? And then now we're in the fall. We're almost done with the fall, honestly, because it's November, and November 2020 right now. And let's just say that it's not going good. Even in New York City, I talked about the Midwest, but even New York City, cases are rising again. Don't ask me why. Okay, yeah, you can ask me why, because pretty much what I've heard is because, and even from New Yorkers themselves, it's like, basically what's happening is that people aren't paying attention anymore. They kind of are being careless and not caring that much, and some people don't even wear masks apparently on the subway and in the trains, which I don't know how you can do that if you aren't allowed to board them in the first place without a mask on, but people are, still congregating, indoor dining. Indoor dining is opening up again. So that was something that was made in advance. But before we thought about, indoor dining was something that we were thinking about, the city was thinking about before these cases rose so much. And now, that they've risen, it's almost like, okay, now we shouldn't do indoor dining, because this is the thing we have right now. Outdoor dining, which I like it really much. Outdoor dining is nice. First of all, for starters, it's really good because you don't have great ventilation inside, so the coronavirus can really circulate quickly amongst everyone in the restaurant. But now, if you do it outside, it's better because of the air and whatnot, and it's not as bad of ventilation. It's outside, obviously. And people are spread apart as well, so inside you're kind of cramped. You have just a limited space. But outside is better. And I can attest to you that as someone who's been to outdoor dining, it's a great atmosphere, it's a great environment, and it's really fun, it's really different. And I think even after after the coronavirus, I feel like people still, I don't know if restaurants will actually do this themselves, but I think people will still like outdoor dining. I think it's like not even like a fad, but it's more like a thing that could definitely continue even after this virus is done and over with. So for now, the issue is that it's getting colder, and we're getting into winter now. And unfortunately, we are having a scenario in which we have the cold coming, but the virus is not done. It's not over, So basically, it's kind of crazy because it's like, do you go indoors and risk the virus? But it's like, oh, well, its ventilation is better. Not risking really, but it's not as bad as it once was. We've been doing better, and cases in the city actually have been going down up to this point. So now, because the cases are rising, it's like, okay, we can have outdoor dining because it's cold. And from what I've seen already, many outdoor dining places, like, they make these makeshift places. They make like these little, they make parts out of the, like, the road, like out of the road. They like have their own outdoor dining area. I saw it in the spring, making with wood, decorating these little, I don't even know how to describe it. What is it? Like, these just little kind of places, So a car can like ram into it or whatever, I don't know. But just some kind of outdoor dining area that they made, and now they're taking them down because it's obviously getting cold, and they expect to go to indoor dining now. But now it's like we might not be able to do outdoor dining because it's getting cold, first of all, and they're already gone anyway. And second of all, indoor dining is so hard to do now because the cases are going up, and because it's city wants to not have indoor dining. Um, Now the city can't now you cannot do indoor dining after 10. So what about when it gets even worse? That means you can't have indoor dining after at all. People only be forced to eat out. That's the kind of thing in New York City. But eating out isn't the most important thing here. It's about lives. But I want to explain to you what was happening with the city because we're also seeing cases rise. Even the indoor tennis place I go to play is saying that they're gonna also go ahead and go ahead and what's the word close as well, which is what they did before in spring. It's like, wow, it's gotten this bad, really. That's how it is. Fortunately, though, good news is that we have some two companies, or I think companies, pharmaceutical companies that are making these vaccines. One is Moderna, and the other one is Pfizer, and they both have really positive success rates for their vaccines. 94% success rate for both of them. 95, I guess. They both are very much positive success rates. So they're doing very well, and testing on groups such as 65-year and older individuals, and they're doing a lot better. And these vaccines have been proven to be successful and to work. So that's really good. So from what I know, is that they plan to distribute the vaccines. That's going to be a challenge in itself, obviously. But with COVID and everything, but they're going to distribute them around the spring 2021, which is when I graduate, by the way. So around this time, we're going to have them distributed and people have the vaccines. That is the anticipated date. It is not set in stone. It's not certain. And spring sounds so vague. It's like that's 3 months in the year. I know, but it's just what we're kind of thinking of. At the earliest, you could say that. At the earliest. Winter, I doubt it. They're still doing it. And it takes time for vaccine to really, it takes usually like a year or 2 years. And now they're doing it in a huge rush because of how bad this thing is. It's horrible. And if you're alive during this year, you know how bad it is. Even if you're a 5-year-old, you know how bad this is and how destructive it is to everyone involved. And we need this as quickly as possible. Like, there's no other way to say it. There's no other way to dance around this issue. It's so badly needed and so quickly. But luckily, vaccines are coming, so we'll see what happens. The census ended, and I can say from what I saw, the census, if you didn't do their thing online, many people came to your door, and obviously masks on, everything, socially distance. They had to take the census. Like I did the census from that. Someone came to my door, and I gave them information. You know what I mean? So if they do, I don't know how they distribute vaccines, but it's possible. And I think it's gonna be pretty much, not crazy hard, but seamless in a way. Because it's not, it can be done. You know what I mean? From what I saw with census, but census and vaccines are the same thing. I'm no doctor. I'm no expert on health, but we'll see how it goes. I'm feeling optimistic though. That's what we have to do. All we have to do is optimism right now. So we'll see how it goes, everyone. And yeah, I mean, 2020 has been such a crazy year that I'm wondering what will happen next year. I'm just wondering how 2021 will be because it's gonna be hard to top this year. This is a year that's very hard to top. If you're 2021, tell me how it is. Tell me how it is this year. I'm looking forward to next year, but also I guess this year has helped me a lot. Black Lives Matter protest, coronavirus, and what else? The economy basically collapsed. Also, worse than Great Depression, worse than 2008 recession. Not worse than, but I guess almost equal to. It's been crazy, pretty crazy. That's the biggest understatement of the year. Saying 2020 was crazy is the biggest understatement of the year. But oh well, we lived through it, we survived, and we'll get through it. We always do. See you guys. Have a great rest of the time. It's my last video, I guess, for the year. I don't know if it's my last video for the year. I don't know. But I'll see you next year, and have a great 2020. And let's look forward to even better 2021.